The sound of my daughter's voice cuts through the midnight silence like a rusty blade. I'm hunched over my workbench in the garage, rewiring a junction box for tomorrow's job, when Sophie's words drift through the thin walls, separating our house from what used to feel like home. "He's back, Mom. You always say Dad's just holding us back. Maybe we'd be happier if Jake was my stepfather instead." My hands freeze on the copper wiring. Jake. My former best friend Jake Morrison, the guy who stood as my best man 12 years ago, the same Jake who's been helping my wife Melissa with her real estate business lately. I set down my wire strippers and listen harder. Melissa's voice is lower, more careful, but I catch fragments through the heating vent that connects the garage to the kitchen. "Sophie, you can't say things like that. Your father works hard for us." But Jake drives that cool Mustang and takes us to nice restaurants. Dad just fixes other people's electrical problems and comes home smelling like sawdust. The conversation continues, but I've heard enough. I walk to my toolbox and pull out the spare house key I keep there for emergencies. Only problem is, this isn't my spare key. This is a shiny new duplicate I found in Melissa's purse last week while looking for her car insurance card after she rear-ended someone at the grocery store. I've been carrying it around like a tumor, hoping I was wrong about what it meant. But Sophie's words just confirmed my worst suspicions. My wife of 14 years is having an affair with my former best friend, and apparently they're not being particularly subtle about it. I flip the key between my fingers, feeling its sharp edges. Such a small thing to destroy a marriage. I remember when Melissa and I bought this house in Portside, Maine. We were young and optimistic, convinced we could renovate the old Victorian and turn it into something special. I rewired the entire place myself, installed smart home technology before it was trendy, even built custom shelving for Melissa's real estate awards. Now those same awards mock me from the kitchen window I can see through the garage door. Salesperson of the Month certificates lined up like little participation trophies for adultery. My phone buzzes with a text message. It's from Jake. "Great meeting today. Looking forward to our next collaboration." The timestamp shows 11:47 p.m. What kind of business meeting happens at midnight on a Tuesday? I grab my jacket and truck keys. Time to find out. Jake lives in a renovated farmhouse about 15 minutes outside town. He bought it after his contracting business started taking off, right around the time he began underbidding all my electrical jobs. Funny how that worked out. I drive past his house first. The gaudy yellow Mustang isn't in the driveway, neither is Melissa's Honda. But I know Jake's habits from our friendship days. When he wants privacy, he goes to the Sleepy Inn Motel on Route 9. It's the kind of place that rents rooms by the hour and doesn't ask questions. Sure enough, both vehicles are parked behind the motel's main building, tucked away from the road like guilty secrets. I park across the street at a 24-hour gas station and watch. Room 237 has its curtains drawn tight, but I can see shadows moving against the thin fabric. My wife's silhouette is unmistakable, even in betrayal. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. For a moment, I consider storming up there and confronting them, but that's what the old Nick would do, the trusting, straightforward guy who believed in handling problems with honest conversation. That Nick is gone now, replaced by someone harder and considerably more creative. Instead, I walk to the motel's front desk. The night clerk is a kid who looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Excuse me," I say, putting on my friendliest contractor smile. "My buddy Jake Morrison is in room 237. Could you give him this note? He's expecting it." The kid shrugs and takes the folded paper without reading it. Inside I've written, "Welcome home, Snake. Hope you enjoy the ride." To a friend. Next, I walk to Jake's Mustang. The car is his pride and joy, a 2019 GT convertible he bought to impress clients, or apparently other men's wives. I pull out my utility knife and make 2 precise cuts in the rear tires. Not slashes that would be obvious immediately, but small punctures that will cause slow leaks. By morning, he'll be stranded. As I walk back to my truck, I notice something I missed before. Mrs. Patterson from my neighborhood is peering out from behind the motel office blinds. She works the night shift here part-time since her husband passed. Great. By tomorrow afternoon, half the town will know I was here. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Let them talk. Let them wonder what Nick Brennan is planning next. I drive home slowly, taking the long way through downtown Portside. The old mill buildings loom like broken teeth against the cloudy sky. This town has seen better days, but it's still home, still worth fighting for. When I pull into my driveway, the house is quiet. Melissa's Honda is back in its usual spot, and all the lights are off. She must have rushed home after receiving my note, probably panicking about what I might know. I sit in the truck for a few minutes, planning my next moves. The smart thing would be to hire a lawyer, file for divorce, and try to salvage what I can from the wreckage. But I've never been particularly smart when it comes to matters of the heart. Besides, Melissa and Jake want to play games? I've got 15 years of electrical contracting experience, which means I know how to take things apart and put them back together in ways that would surprise you. My phone buzzes with a text from Melissa. Can't sleep. Working late on the Henderson property listing. Don't wait up. I text back. No problem, sweet dreams. Then I walk into my garage and start planning. If my wife wants to trade our marriage for whatever Jake Morrison is offering, that's her choice. But she's going to learn that every choice has consequences, and some consequences have a way of snowballing into avalanches. I pull out a legal pad and start making lists. Assets, joint accounts, shared properties, mutual friends. Everything we've built together over 14 years, itemized and categorized. If Melissa thinks she can just walk away with half of everything while leaving me with the humiliation, she's about to discover how wrong she is. The key to her secret life sits on my workbench, catching the fluorescent light. Such a small thing to cause so much damage. But then again, the biggest disasters often start with the tiniest cracks in the foundation. By the time I finally head inside, it's almost 3 a.m. Melissa is pretending to sleep, but I can tell from her breathing that she's awake. Probably wondering if I bought her story about working late, or if I'm suspicious about anything. She has no idea what's coming, but she will soon enough. The next morning arrives with the subtlety of a jackhammer. I'm making coffee when Melissa stumbles into the kitchen, looking like she wrestled with her conscience all night and lost. Her usually perfect real estate agent appearance is disheveled, her blonde hair sticking up in directions that suggest she spent more time tossing and turning than sleeping. Morning, she mumbles, avoiding eye contact while reaching for her travel mug. Sleep well? I ask, pouring myself a cup. You seemed restless when you got home from your late-night property work. She freezes for just a moment, barely perceptible unless you're watching for it. The Henderson listing is complicated, lots of paperwork. I'm sure it is. I take a sip of coffee and watch her over the rim. Jake Morrison called earlier, something about his car having tire problems, asked if I knew any good mechanics. Now she's fully alert, her green eyes sharp with concern. Jake called here? Around 6:30. Woke me up, actually. Seems both his rear tires went flat overnight. Strangest thing. He was pretty upset about it. Melissa busies herself with adding cream to her coffee, but I can see her hands trembling slightly. That is strange. Maybe someone vandalized his car? Maybe. Though who would want to mess with Jake's precious Mustang? He's such a stand-up guy. The sarcasm in my voice is thick enough to cut with a knife, but Melissa pretends not to notice. She grabs her purse and heads for the door. I've got 3 showings today. Don't wait up if I'm late again. After she leaves, I call in sick to my job site. Tommy Rodriguez, my business partner, isn't happy about it, but I've got more important work to do today. First stop: Ringside Boxing Gym on Industrial Street. Frank Kowalski has been running the place since before I was born, and he's seen every type of human drama play out in his ring. If anyone can give me perspective on my situation, it's Frank. I find him training a kid who can't be more than 16, teaching him how to take a punch without folding like origami. "Nick," Frank calls out when he sees me. "You here to work the bags or just watch?" "Need some advice, Frank," he nods to the kid. "Take 5, Tommy. Work on your footwork." Frank and I walk to the corner where he keeps his office, really just a desk and 2 folding chairs surrounded by boxing memorabilia and faded newspaper clippings. "Woman troubles?" he asks before I can speak. "That obvious?" "You got that look. Same one my ex-wife gave me right before she cleaned out our joint account and moved to Florida with her yoga instructor." Frank pulls out 2 bottles of water from a mini fridge. "What's the damage?" I tell him about Melissa and Jake, about the secret key and the motel room. Frank listens without interrupting, occasionally nodding like he's heard this story 1,000 times before. "So what's your plan?" he asks when I finish. "That's what I'm trying to figure out. Part of me wants to confront them directly, get everything out in the open." Frank shakes his head. "Bad strategy. You go in swinging wild, you'll miss your target and leave yourself open for a counterpunch. Better to wait, let them think they're winning, then hit them when they're not expecting it. You're talking about this like it's a boxing match. Isn't it? They threw the first punch when they decided to sneak around behind your back. Now you gotta decide if you're going to take it lying down or fight back." I spend the next hour hitting the heavy bag, working out my frustrations with leather and sweat. Frank's advice makes sense, but patience has never been my strong suit. I want to act, to do something that will make Jake and Melissa understand the consequences of their choices. When I leave the gym, I drive through downtown Portside, past the empty storefronts and struggling businesses that make up what's left of our local economy. This town has been fading slowly for years, ever since the textile mills closed down. But it's still got fight left in it, just like me. I park outside Melissa's real estate office and wait. Through the window, I can see her talking animatedly on the phone, probably trying to calm down Jake about his tire situation. She's wearing her power suit, the navy blue one she reserves for important clients or difficult negotiations. My phone rings. It's Sophie calling from school. "Dad, can Jake pick me up today? Mom said she might be working late again." The casual way she says it makes my stomach turn. How long has this been going on? How long has my own daughter been part of their deception? "I'll pick you up," I tell her. Same time as always. "But Jake said he could take me to that new ice cream place on Harbor Street." I said I'll pick you up, Sophie. End of discussion. There's a pause, then Sophie's voice turns cold. "Fine. Whatever." She hangs up without saying goodbye. When did my relationship with my daughter become so strained? When did I become the obstacle standing between her and the exciting new life that Jake Morrison represents? I'm still sitting outside the real estate office when Jake's tow truck arrives. He's getting his Mustang delivered to Mickey's auto shop, and he looks frustrated enough to chew nails. Good. Let him wonder who messed with his car and why. Melissa comes out of her office to meet him, and I watch them talk through my truck's windshield. She touches his arm in a way that's supposed to look casual, but screams intimacy to anyone paying attention. He leans in close to whisper something that makes her laugh. That laugh, the one I used to love hearing, now sounds like fingernails on a chalkboard. I start my truck and drive to Sophie's school. She's waiting by the flagpole with her usual group of friends, all of them glued to their phones like they contain the secrets of the universe. When she sees my truck, her expression shifts from neutral to annoyed. "Where's Jake?" she asks as she climbs into the passenger seat. "Jake's not your father, Sophie." "I am." "Yeah, well, maybe that's the problem." The words hit me like a physical blow. I pull over to the side of the road and turn to face her. "What's that supposed to mean?" Sophie doesn't look at me, just stares out the passenger window. "Nothing. Forget it." "No, I won't forget it. You're my daughter, and I deserve to know why you think I'm such a disappointment. Now she turns to face me, and I see Melissa's stubborn streak in her green eyes. Because Jake actually cares about what I want. He listens to me talk about school and my friends without looking at his phone or thinking about work. When's the last time you and I had a real conversation, Dad? I want to argue, to defend myself, but the truth is that Sophie's right. I have been distant lately, preoccupied with work and the growing problems in my marriage. When did I stop being the father she could talk to? I'm sorry, I say finally. I know I haven't been as present as I should be. But Sophie, there are things about Jake that you don't understand. Like what? I almost tell her everything right then. About the affair, about the motel room, about how Jake is destroying our family. But she's 16 years old, and despite everything, she doesn't deserve to have her world shattered in the front seat of my pickup truck. Just trust me, okay? Jake Morrison isn't the man you think he is. Sophie crosses her arms and turns back to the window. Neither are you. We drive home in silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. When we pull into the driveway, Melissa's Honda is already there. She's standing in the kitchen window, watching us with an expression I can't quite read. That evening, the three of us sit down to dinner like we're acting out a play about a normal family. Melissa asks Sophie about school. I make small talk about my work projects, and Sophie responds to both of us with the minimum number of words required to avoid being rude. But underneath the facade of normalcy, I can feel the tension building like pressure in a faulty electrical circuit. Something's going to give soon, and when it does, the explosion is going to light up the whole neighborhood. After dinner, I retreat to my garage workshop while Melissa helps Sophie with homework. I pull out the legal pad where I've been making my lists and add some new items. If my wife and former best friend want to play games, I need to understand all the rules. I start with our joint assets, the house, both vehicles, our savings account, Melissa's retirement fund from her real estate commissions. Then I move on to debts, the mortgage, Sophie's college fund, the loan I took out to expand my electrical business. Finally, I make a list of everyone who knows about the affair or suspects something. Mrs. Patterson from the motel is definitely on there, along with probably half the night shift staff. In a town like Portside, secrets have a way of spreading faster than wildfire. But maybe that's not entirely bad. Maybe it's time for everyone to see Jake Morrison and my wife for who they really are. I'm still working on my lists when I hear a car door slam outside. Through the garage window, I see Jake's borrowed pickup truck in my driveway. He's walking up to my front door like he has every right to be here. The nerve of this guy is unbelievable. I set down my pen and walk to the front door, getting there just as Jake raises his hand to knock. I open it before he can make contact, catching him off guard. Jake, what brings you by so late? He recovers quickly, putting on his best contractor smile. Hey Nick, hope you don't mind me stopping by. I wanted to thank you for the mechanic recommendation. Mickey's guys got me back on the road. No problem. Though I'm curious, what were you doing at the Sleepy Inn motel when your tires went flat? Jake's smile falters for just a moment. Meeting a potential client, late-night consultation about a renovation project. Must have been some consultation. You were there pretty late. Now Jake's getting defensive, his posture shifting from friendly to guarded. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all, just making conversation. Melissa appears behind me, still wearing her power suit but looking flustered. Jake, I didn't know you were coming by. Just wanted to update Nick on the tire situation, Jake says, but he's looking at Melissa when he says it. I step aside and gesture for him to come in. Why don't you join us for coffee? We can catch up on old times. The last thing either of them wants is to spend time together in my living room, but they can't refuse without looking suspicious. We sit in the same chairs where Jake used to watch football games with me, back when I thought he was my friend. So tell me about this renovation project, I say, pouring coffee from the pot Melissa made. Sounds like a big job, if it requires midnight meetings. Jake glances at Melissa, then back to me. It's still in the preliminary stages. Client wants to keep things confidential until they decide whether to move forward. I understand completely. Client confidentiality is important in our line of work. I take a sip of coffee and lean back in my chair. Though, I have to say, the Sleepy Inn seems like an unusual place for a business meeting. Most of my clients prefer to meet at their property or my office. The silence that follows is thick enough to cut with a chainsaw. Melissa fidgets with her wedding ring, the one I saved up for 3 months to buy 14 years ago. Jake stares into his coffee cup like it contains the answers to all of life's problems. Finally, Sophie breaks the tension by coming downstairs in her pajamas. "Jake," she says, her whole face lighting up. "I didn't know you were here. Did you bring the pictures of that house you're renovating?" "Not tonight, kiddo," Jake says, and I notice how his voice softens when he talks to my daughter. "Maybe next time." "Sophie, it's time for bed," Melissa says quickly. "But Mom..." "Bed, now." Sophie looks confused by her mother's sharp tone, but she obeys. She gives Jake a quick hug goodnight, nods at me, and heads back upstairs. Jake finishes his coffee and stands up. "I should get going. Early job site tomorrow." "Of course," I say, walking him to the door. "Thanks for stopping by. It's always good to catch up with old friends." As Jake walks to his borrowed truck, I call out, "Hey, Jake, you might want to be more careful where you park from now on. A lot of vandalism going around lately." He stops and turns back to me, his expression unreadable in the porch light. "I'll keep that in mind." After he drives away, Melissa and I stand in the doorway for a moment, both of us pretending we don't know what just happened. "He seems stressed," I observe. "It's been a tough week for everyone," Melissa replies. "Yeah, it really has." We go through our usual bedtime routine like actors who've performed the same play for years. Melissa takes her shower first, then I brush my teeth while she pretends to read a real estate magazine. We say goodnight and turn off the lights, lying in the same bed but feeling miles apart. But I'm not planning to sleep tonight. I've got work to do, and thanks to Jake's unexpected visit, I now know exactly where to start. 3 days later, I'm rewiring the electrical panel at Henderson Elementary when my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. The message contains a single photo, Melissa and Jake kissing in the parking lot behind Tony's Pizzeria, taken from someone's car window. Below the image, a message. "Thought you should know. A concerned friend." I stare at the photo for a long moment, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Jake's hands are tangled in Melissa's hair, and she's pressed against him like he's the only thing keeping her upright. My phone rings. It's Tommy, my business partner. "Nick, you see the Henderson job through? I got Mrs. Patterson calling about her kitchen outlets acting up." Mrs. Patterson. The same woman who works nights at the Sleepy Inn motel. Interesting timing for her electrical problems. "I'll swing by there after I finish here," I tell Tommy. "Thanks, man. And hey, you doing okay? You seem different lately." "Just working through some personal stuff." "Well, if you need to talk, you know where to find me." After I hang up, I finish the school's electrical work and drive to Mrs. Patterson's house. She lives in a small Cape Cod-style home about 6 blocks from my place, with a garden that's the envy of the neighborhood. She's waiting for me on her front porch, a thin woman in her 70s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled back in a practical bun. "Nick, thank you for coming so quickly," she says, leading me inside. "The outlets in my kitchen keep tripping the breaker." I follow her to the kitchen and immediately see the problem. She's got too many appliances plugged into a circuit that wasn't designed to handle the load. It's a simple fix, but Mrs. Patterson seems nervous, fidgeting with her hands while I work. "Mrs. Patterson, is everything all right?" She glances toward the window, then back at me. "Nick, I need to tell you something, and I hope you won't think poorly of me for it." I set down my voltage tester and give her my full attention. I work part-time at the Sleepy Inn, you know. Night shift, mostly just to keep busy since Harold passed. She pauses, wringing her hands. I've seen things there that aren't my business to see. What kind of things? Your wife and Jake Morrison. They've been meeting there regularly for about 2 months now. I tried to mind my own business, but when I saw you there the other night, I realized you knew something was wrong. Mrs. Patterson reaches into her purse and pulls out a small notebook. I wrote down the dates and times I saw them. I thought maybe you might need this information someday. I take the notebook and flip through it. She's documented everything. Dates, arrival times, room numbers, how long they stayed. It's more thorough than most police reports. Why are you telling me this? Because you're a good man, Nick. You rewired my whole house after Harold's heart attack, and you wouldn't take payment because you said neighbors help neighbors. You deserve better than what they're doing to you. I finish fixing her electrical problem and refuse payment, just like she knew I would. As I'm packing up my tools, Mrs. Patterson touches my arm. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well. I appreciate the advice, Mrs. Patterson, but some situations require a more direct approach. That evening, I sit in my garage with Mrs. Patterson's notebook and the anonymous photo, planning my next moves. Melissa is working late again, or at least that's what she told Sophie and me. Sophie is upstairs video chatting with her friends, probably complaining about her boring father and his boring life. I pull out my laptop and start researching. Jake's contracting business has been growing rapidly over the past year, taking jobs that used to come to me. I dig deeper into public records and discover something interesting. Jake has been underbidding jobs by significant margins, sometimes at rates that couldn't possibly be profitable. How is he staying in business while charging below cost? More research reveals the answer. Jake recently took out a large business loan using his farmhouse as collateral. He's been operating at a loss, probably hoping to drive competitors like me out of business, then raise his prices once he's cornered the market. It's a risky strategy that could backfire spectacularly if his cash flow gets disrupted. I make some phone calls to suppliers I've worked with for years. Jake has been slow paying his bills lately, and several vendors are getting nervous about extending him more credit. A few more late payments, and his supply lines could dry up completely. My phone buzzes with a text from Melissa. "Working very late tonight, don't wait up." I text back. "No problem. Sophie and I will manage." Then I grab my truck keys and drive to the Sleepy Inn. Sure enough, both their vehicles are parked in the usual spot behind the building. Room 237 again, they're creatures of habit, which makes them predictable. Instead of confronting them, I drive to Jake's farmhouse. His borrowed truck isn't there, which means he won't be back for hours. Perfect. I park down the road and walk to his property. Jake's always been careless about security. His garage door remote is hidden under a fake rock that wouldn't fool a 10-year-old. I find it easily and let myself into his garage. Jake's tools are organized with obsessive precision, each one in its designated place. His workbench is clean enough to perform surgery on. Even his shop rags are folded and stacked by color. The man's need for control extends to every aspect of his life. Except he can't control what happens when his tools start disappearing. I don't take everything. That would be too obvious. Instead, I remove key items that he'll need for upcoming jobs: his laser level, his cordless drill set, his electrical multimeter. Things that are expensive to replace and essential for professional work. I load them into my truck and drive to the town dump, where I bury them in a construction debris pile. Let Jake try to explain to his clients why he can't complete their projects on schedule. But I'm not done yet. Next, I drive to the office building where Melissa works. Her real estate agency occupies the second floor of a converted Victorian mansion on Harbor Street. The building has terrible cell phone reception, something I know because I installed a signal booster there 3 years ago. I also know where the main electrical panel is located. It takes me less than 10 minutes to create a selective power outage that will affect only Melissa's office. Her computer, her printer, her phone charger, all of it will be useless tomorrow morning. She'll spend hours trying to figure out why her technology isn't working, missing appointments and frustrating clients, small problems that will snowball into bigger ones. On my way home, I stop at Mickey's auto shop. Mickey Torino has been fixing cars in Portside for 30 years, and he's never met a piece of gossip he couldn't share. "Nick, how's the electrical business?" "Can't complain. Hey, I heard Jake Morrison had some tire trouble the other day." Mickey's face lights up with the prospect of sharing drama. "Yeah, strangest thing. Both rear tires had these tiny punctures, like someone stuck them with an ice pick or something. Jake was madder than a wet cat." "Any idea who might have done it?" "Well, Jake seems to think it was random vandalism, but between you and me, the guy's been making enemies lately. He underbid 3 of my regular contractors on jobs last month, and people are starting to talk." "What kind of talk?" Mickey leans in closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Word is he's been getting cozy with certain married women around town, if you know what I mean. That kind of behavior tends to create enemies." I keep my expression neutral, but inside I'm burning with curiosity. Married women? Anyone I know? I'm not one to spread rumors, Nick, but let's just say some husbands might have reasons to be upset with Jake Morrison. I thank Mickey for the information and drive home, my mind racing with possibilities. If Mickey knows about the affair, then half the town probably knows. Melissa and Jake think they're being discreet, but in a place like Portside, secrets have a way of becoming public knowledge. Maybe it's time to help that process along. The next morning, I wake up early and check the local Facebook groups that serve as Portside's unofficial communication network. Sure enough, there's already chatter about Jake's recent run of bad luck. Someone posted about seeing his tools being sold at a pawn shop in the next town over, which is impossible since I buried them at the dump, but gossip has a way of growing in the telling. Another post mentions seeing Jake and a certain blonde real estate agent having lunch together at a restaurant 2 towns over, thinking they wouldn't be recognized. I grab my coffee and scroll through the comments, watching my neighbors dissect Jake's life with the enthusiasm of amateur detectives. Small towns can be vicious when they turn on someone, and Jake Morrison is about to learn that lesson the hard way. My phone rings. It's Melissa, and she sounds frazzled. "Nick, I'm having problems with my office equipment. Nothing's working right, and I have 3 showings today." "That's strange. Want me to take a look at it?" "Would you? I'm supposed to meet the Hendersons in an hour, and my printer won't even turn on. I'll be right there." I drive to her office and spend 20 minutes pretending to diagnose the electrical problem I created. Melissa hovers over me, checking her watch and growing more agitated by the minute. "Can you fix it?" "It's going to take a while. Looks like you might have a short in your main circuit. I'll need to trace all the wiring to find the source." Melissa's phone rings, probably the Hendersons wondering where she is. She steps into the hallway to take the call, and I can hear her making excuses about technical difficulties. When she comes back, her professional composure is starting to crack. "How long will this take?" "Hard to say. Could be all day." "All day? Nick, I can't afford to lose a whole day of work." "I'm sorry, honey. Electrical problems are unpredictable." The endearment slips out automatically, a habit from 14 years of marriage. But it feels hollow now, like a word in a foreign language I used to speak fluently. Melissa stares at me for a moment, and I wonder if she can see the calculation in my eyes, if she suspects that her husband might be more dangerous than she realized. "I'll have to work from home today," she says finally. "That's probably for the best." I pack up my tools and leave her standing in her powerless office, surrounded by the tools of a trade that suddenly seems a lot less reliable than it did yesterday. As I drive away, I catch sight of Jake's borrowed truck parked outside the hardware store. He's probably trying to replace the tools that mysteriously disappeared from his garage. Good luck explaining that expense to his accountant. My phone buzzes with a text from Sophie. Dad, can you pick me up after school? Mom says she's having work problems. I text back, of course. See you at 3:15. For the first time in weeks, I'm looking forward to spending time with my daughter. Maybe while Melissa and Jake are dealing with their various crises, Sophie and I can have that real conversation she said we never have anymore. But first, I need to make a stop at the hardware store. I want to see Jake Morrison's face when he realizes that his perfect, controlled world is starting to fall apart. And this is just the beginning. The Portside Fall Festival arrives with the kind of crisp October weather that makes tourists think small-town Maine is quaint and charming. Main Street is lined with booths selling everything from handmade crafts to questionable seafood, and the whole town turns out for what passes as our biggest social event of the year. I'm manning the Electrical Workers Union booth, selling raffle tickets for a generator that nobody really wants, but everyone feels obligated to support. It's the perfect vantage point to watch the drama unfold. Melissa is working the Real Estate Association's booth 3 spots down from mine, looking polished and professional in her autumn-themed blazer. She's been struggling lately. Her office equipment keeps malfunctioning. She's lost 2 major clients to mysterious scheduling conflicts, and several of her listings have fallen through due to inspection problems that seem to crop up at the worst possible moments. Jake is supposed to be helping with the contractor's booth, but he's been distracted all morning. His tool replacement costs have put a serious dent in his cash flow, and I heard through Mickey Torino that Jake's been asking around town for short-term loans to cover his operating expenses. Sophie is working the school fundraising booth with her friends, selling homemade cookies and pretending she doesn't see me watching her. Our relationship has been strained since our conversation in the truck, but I'm hoping today might give us a chance to reconnect. Around noon, Frank Kowalski stops by my booth. He's wearing his best flannel shirt and a Red Sox cap that's seen better decades. How's the revenge business treating you, Nick? I don't know what you're talking about. Frank chuckles and buys 5 raffle tickets he doesn't need. Course you don't. But hypothetically speaking, if someone was systematically dismantling their enemies' lives, they might want to be careful about taking things too far. Hypothetically speaking, what would be too far? When innocent people start getting hurt, like that daughter of yours. I glance over at Sophie, who's laughing with her friends while decorating cupcakes. She looks happy for the first time in weeks, and I realize Frank might have a point. Sophie's going to be fine. Is she? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like she's caught in the middle of a war she doesn't understand. Before I can respond, commotion breaks out near the contractor's booth. Jake is having a heated conversation with Bill Henderson, one of the town's most prominent business owners. Their voices are getting loud enough to attract attention from other festival goers. I don't care what your excuses are, Henderson is saying. You promised my kitchen renovation would be done 2 weeks ago, and you haven't even finished the electrical work. I've had some equipment issues, Jake replies, trying to keep his voice down. But I can have everything completed by equipment issues? What kind of professional contractor doesn't have reliable tools? The crowd around them is growing, and I can see Melissa watching from her booth with obvious concern. This is exactly the kind of public embarrassment that Jake's ego can't handle. Mr. Henderson, if you could just give me until... I'm hiring someone else to finish the job. Send me a bill for whatever work you've actually completed. Henderson walks away, leaving Jake standing there with his face red and his hands clenched into fists. Several people in the crowd are whispering and pointing, and Jake looks like he wants to disappear into the ground. I almost feel sorry for him. Almost. My phone buzzes with a text message from an unknown number. Meet me at the old mill building in 20 minutes. Come alone. J. Jake wants to talk. This should be interesting. I ask Mrs. Patterson to watch my booth for a few minutes and walk to the abandoned textile mill at the edge of downtown. The building has been empty for 15 years, its broken windows and rusted fire escapes serving as a monument to Portside's economic decline. Jake is waiting in the loading dock area, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. When he sees me, he stops and turns to face me with an expression I've never seen before. Part desperation, part fury. We need to talk. I'm listening. I know it's you. The tire slashing, the missing tools, the electrical problems at Melissa's office. I know you're behind all of it. I lean against a concrete pillar and cross my arms. That's quite an accusation, Jake. You got any proof? I don't need proof. I know you, Nick. We were friends for 15 years. I know how your mind works. If we were really friends, you wouldn't be screwing my wife. The words hang in the air between us like a challenge. Jake's face goes through several expressions before settling on something that might be shame. It's not what you think. Really? Because what I think is that my best friend and my wife have been meeting at the Sleepy Inn Motel for the past 2 months, lying to me and my daughter, and planning some kind of future together that doesn't include me. Jake runs his hands through his hair, a gesture I remember from our friendship days when he was stressed about something. Melissa and I... It just happened. We didn't plan it. You didn't plan it? You accidentally rented a motel room? You accidentally started underbidding my jobs to put me out of business? You accidentally convinced my daughter that I'm a disappointment? Sophie said that? Among other things. Apparently, you're everything I'm not. Successful, attentive, exciting. The kind of man she wishes was her father. Jake looks genuinely hurt by this, which surprises me. For a moment, I see a flash of the friend I used to know, the guy who helped me move furniture when Melissa and I bought our house, who stood up at our wedding and made a toast about friendship lasting forever. I never wanted Sophie to get caught in the middle of this. But she is in the middle of it, isn't she? Because you and Melissa decided that your happiness was more important than keeping a family together. Jake starts pacing again, his boots crunching on broken glass and debris. What do you want from me, Nick? You want me to end it with Melissa. You want me to leave town. What? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You can't just take whatever you want and expect everyone else to quietly accept it. So you're going to keep sabotaging my business? Keep making my life miserable until I give up? I push off from the concrete pillar and take a step toward him. Jake, you haven't seen miserable yet. What's happened so far is just me getting warmed up. Something in my voice makes Jake take a step backward. Good. He should be afraid. You're making a mistake, Nick. If you push this too far, everyone's going to get hurt, including Sophie. Sophie's already hurt. The question is whether she's going to learn that her father is someone who fights for his family or someone who rolls over and plays victim. I turn to walk away, then stop and look back at him. Oh, and Jake? You might want to check your credit report. I heard some of your suppliers are getting nervous about extending you more credit. Jake's face goes pale. What did you do? Me? Nothing at all. But word gets around in a small town, especially when someone's been making enemies. People talk, banks listen, and suddenly, that business loan you're depending on doesn't look so secure anymore. I leave him standing in the ruins of the old mill, probably wondering how much of his financial life I've managed to unravel. The truth is, I haven't touched his credit or his loans, yet. But the fear that I might is almost as effective as actually doing it. When I get back to the festival, Melissa is waiting by my booth with an expression that could freeze water. Where were you? Talking to an old friend. Jake told me he was going to confront you about what you've been doing. I smile and straighten the raffle tickets on my table. What have I been doing, Melissa? You know exactly what you've been doing. The question is why? Why? You're seriously asking me why I might be upset about my wife having an affair? Several people at nearby booths turn to look at us, and Melissa's professional composure cracks slightly. Keep your voice down. Why? Afraid people might find out? Too late for that, honey. Half the town already knows about you and Jake. The other half is starting to figure it out. Melissa glances around nervously, realizing that our conversation is attracting attention. In a town like Portside, a public argument between spouses is entertainment that's better than cable television. We need to talk about this at home. Do we? Because it seems like you've been doing plenty of talking with Jake. What's left to discuss with me? Nick, please, not here. I can see Sophie watching us from the school booth, her face confused and worried. Frank was right. She's caught in the middle of something she doesn't understand, and it's not fair to her. Fine, we'll talk at home. But Melissa, this conversation is long overdue. The rest of the festival passes in a blur of forced smiles and awkward small talk. I sell raffle tickets to neighbors who've probably heard rumors about my marriage troubles. Melissa works her booth with professional efficiency while avoiding eye contact with me. Sophie stays with her friends, probably hoping her parents will stop embarrassing her in public. As the sun sets and the festival winds down, I help pack up the booths and load equipment into trucks. Jake is nowhere to be seen, probably still trying to figure out how to salvage his reputation and his business. The drive home is silent, except for the radio playing classic rock songs that remind me of better times. Sophie sits in the back seat with her headphones on, lost in her own world. Melissa stares out the passenger window like she's seeing the town for the first time. When we pull into our driveway, I notice something that makes my stomach clench. There's a for sale sign on the Hendersons' front lawn, and it's not from Melissa's real estate agency. Looks like the Hendersons found a new realtor, I observe. Melissa sees the sign, and her face goes white. The Hendersons were supposed to be one of her biggest commissions this year. I need to call them. It's Saturday night, Melissa. Maybe give them some space. But she's already dialing her phone as we walk into the house. I can hear her leaving voicemails, trying to sound professional while barely containing her panic. Sophie disappears upstairs without saying goodnight to either of us. A few minutes later, I hear music coming from her room, probably drowning out the sound of her parents' failing marriage. Melissa finally gives up on her phone calls and finds me in the kitchen, making a sandwich for dinner. The Hendersons won't return my calls. Maybe they're busy. Nick, I need that commission. Between the office problems and the other listings I've lost, I'm barely covering my expenses this month. I take a bite of my sandwich and look at her. Really look at her, maybe for the first time in months. She's still beautiful, still the woman I fell in love with 16 years ago. But there's something different now, something harder around her eyes. Money problems, huh? Maybe Jake can help you out. This isn't a joke. If I lose many more clients, I might have to find another job. Would that be so bad? You used to talk about teaching, remember? You said you wanted to make a difference in kids' lives. Melissa stares at me like I've suggested she become a circus performer. Teaching doesn't pay enough to maintain our lifestyle. What lifestyle? We live in a modest house in a struggling town. Sophie goes to public school and wears clothes from Target. What exactly are we maintaining? I have a reputation to uphold. Image matters in real estate. Image. I set down my sandwich and lean against the counter. Is that what this is about? Jake Morrison drives a flashy car and takes you to expensive restaurants so he's better for your image than your electrician husband? That's not fair, isn't it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you decided I wasn't good enough for the life you wanted, so you went shopping for an upgrade. Melissa's face flushes with anger. You don't understand anything about what I want or need. Then explain it to me. Help me understand why our 14-year marriage is worth less than whatever Jake Morrison is offering. For a moment, I think she might actually tell me the truth. But instead, she crosses her arms and looks away. I'm going to bed. We can talk about this tomorrow when you're not being so hostile. Hostile? Melissa, I haven't even started being hostile yet. She pauses at the bottom of the stairs and turns back to me. What's that supposed to mean? I smile, but there's no warmth in it. It means that everything that's happened so far has been me playing nice. You and Jake want to destroy our family? Fine. But don't expect me to make it easy for you. Melissa stares at me for a long moment, and I can see her trying to figure out if I'm bluffing. The problem is, I'm not bluffing anymore. The old Nick, the one who believed in fairness and second chances, is gone. He's been replaced by someone who understands that sometimes the only way to win is to make sure everyone else loses. Nick, what are you planning? Nothing you don't deserve. She goes upstairs without another word, leaving me alone in the kitchen with my sandwich and my plans. Through the window, I can see lights on in houses throughout the neighborhood. Families settling in for the night, probably dealing with their own problems and dramas. But I doubt any of them are planning what I'm planning. I pull out my phone and scroll through my contacts until I find the number I'm looking for. It rings twice before a familiar voice answers. Mickey's Auto Shop. Mickey, it's Nick Brennan. I need a favor. The call comes at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm lying in bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to Melissa's careful breathing when my phone buzzes with a text message. Emergency at the Henderson job site. Need you here now. Jake. I slip out of bed without waking Melissa and get dressed in the dark. Whatever Jake wants to discuss at this hour, it's probably not going to be pleasant. But I've been expecting this conversation for weeks. The Henderson house is a sprawling colonial on Elm Street, the kind of property that represents old money in a town that doesn't have much money left. Jake's truck is parked in the driveway, and I can see lights on in what used to be the kitchen before he started his renovation project. I find Jake sitting on a saw bench, surrounded by half-finished electrical work and construction debris. He looks like he hasn't slept in days, and there's a bottle of whiskey on the floor beside him. You came. You said it was an emergency. Jake laughs, but there's no humor in it. Everything's an emergency now, thanks to you. I look around the job site. The work is sloppy, nothing like Jake's usual precise standards. Wires are hanging loose from junction boxes, and I can see at least 3 code violations from where I'm standing. What happened here? What happened is that I can't afford to hire qualified electricians anymore. My credit's shot, my suppliers won't extend me terms, and I'm trying to finish this job with whatever help I can scrape together. Jake takes a drink from the whiskey bottle and offers it to me. I shake my head. Henderson's threatening to sue me if I don't get this done by Friday. Problem is, I don't have the money to buy the materials I need to finish. So why call me? Because you're the only electrician in town who's qualified to fix this mess, and despite everything, I'm hoping you might help me out. I stare at him for a moment, trying to process what he's asking. You want me to help you finish a job so you can avoid getting sued? I want you to help me because we used to be friends, because I made a mistake and I'm asking for forgiveness. A mistake? Jake, you've been having an affair with my wife for months. You've been undermining my business and poisoning my daughter against me. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Jake sets down the whiskey bottle and looks at me with something that might be regret. You're right. It was a choice and it was wrong. But Nick, if I lose this job, I lose everything. The bank will foreclose on my house, my business will collapse, and I'll have to leave town. And Melissa will be left with nothing. No job prospects, no financial security, no future. Is that really what you want? I walk over to one of the exposed electrical panels and examine Jake's work. It's amateur-level stuff, dangerous and probably illegal. If an inspector saw this, Jake would lose his contractor's license. What about Sophie? Jake continues. She thinks I'm going to be part of her life now. If I disappear, she's going to blame you for driving me away. Sophie will get over it. Will she? Because from what I've seen, she's already angry at you. If you destroy her relationship with me too, what kind of father does that make you? I turn back to face him, and Jake must see something in my expression that makes him nervous. You know what kind of father it makes me, Jake? The kind who protects his family from people who want to hurt them. I never wanted to hurt Sophie. But you did hurt her. You made her believe that her father wasn't good enough, that she needed someone like you to make her happy. You used a 16-year-old girl to get closer to her mother. Jake's face goes pale. That's not true. isn't it? You think I don't know about the expensive gifts, the special attention, the way you made Sophie feel like she was the most important person in the world. You groomed my daughter to accept you as a replacement father. I care about Sophie. She's a great kid. She's not your kid, Jake. She's mine, and you're never going to see her again. I pull out my phone and show Jake a series of photos I've been taking over the past few weeks. Jake at Sophie's school events. Jake giving Sophie rides home. Jake and Sophie having ice cream while Melissa was supposedly at work. These look pretty bad out of context, don't they? Especially when you consider that Sophie is a minor and you're a 40-year-old man who's been secretly meeting with her mother. Jake's eyes widen as he realizes what I'm implying. You can't be serious. I never touched Sophie inappropriately. I would never. I know that. But would everyone else know that? Because in a town like Portside, rumors have a way of becoming truth pretty quickly. Jake stands up, his hands shaking with either fear or rage. You're threatening to destroy my reputation with lies. I'm not threatening anything. I'm just pointing out that your relationship with my family could be misinterpreted by people who don't know all the facts. This is insane, Nick. You're talking about ruining my life over something that never happened. I put my phone away and look around the job site one more time. Your life was already ruined the moment you decided to betray our friendship. I'm just helping the process along. Jake picks up the whiskey bottle and throws it against the wall, where it shatters and leaves a dark stain on the unfinished drywall. What do you want from me? You want me to end things with Melissa? Fine. You want me to leave town? I'll pack tonight. Just tell me what you want, and I'll do it. It's too late for that, Jake. You made your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences. I head toward the door, then stop and look back at him one more time. By the way, you might want to fix that electrical work before Friday. The way it's wired now, it's a fire hazard. Would hate for the Henderson house to burn down with someone inside. I leave Jake standing in the ruins of his latest project and drive home through the empty streets of Portside. The town looks different at this hour, peaceful and innocent, like a place where families can still build good lives together. But I know better now. I know that beneath the surface, people are capable of betraying everything they claim to value. The trick is making sure you're not the one who gets betrayed. When I get home, Melissa is awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a worried expression. Where were you? Jake called. Emergency at the Henderson job. Is everything okay? I pour myself a cup of coffee and sit across from her. Define okay. Melissa studies my face, probably trying to figure out what I know and how much trouble she's in. Nick, we need to talk about us, about our marriage. Do we? Because it seems like you've already made your decision about our marriage. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You're having an affair with Jake Morrison. You've been lying to me and Sophie for months. You've been planning some kind of future that doesn't include me. What's complicated about that? Melissa's hands tremble as she lifts her coffee cup. I never meant for things to go this far. How far did you mean for them to go? I don't know. Jake and we connected on a level that you and I haven't in years. He listens to me. He understands my ambitions. He makes me feel like I'm worth something. And I don't? Melissa looks away, unable to meet my eyes. You're a good man, Nick, but we want different things now. We've grown apart. We've grown apart because you've been investing your time and energy in another relationship instead of working on ours. That's not fair. I lean back in my chair and study my wife's face. She's still beautiful, but I can see the stress lines around her eyes, the way her mouth turns down when she thinks no one is looking. You know what's not fair, Melissa? What's not fair is that I've spent 14 years building a life with someone who was apparently just waiting for something better to come along. That's not true, isn't it? Because the moment Jake Morrison started paying attention to you, you were ready to throw away everything we built together. Melissa starts crying, but I don't feel the usual urge to comfort her. Those tears are for the life she's losing, not for the pain she's caused. I'm sorry, Nick. I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything, Melissa. Sorry doesn't undo the lies or rebuild the trust or explain to Sophie why her family is falling apart. What do you want me to do? I finish my coffee and set the cup in the sink. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You chose Jake Morrison over your family. Now you get to live with that choice. What does that mean? I turn back to her, and she must see something in my expression that scares her. It means that by the end of this week, everyone in Portside is going to know exactly what kind of person you are. It means that your real estate career is over, your reputation is destroyed, and your daughter is going to learn some very uncomfortable truths about her mother. Melissa's face goes white. Nick, you can't. I can, and I will. You wanted a new life? Congratulations, you're about to get one. I head upstairs, leaving Melissa sitting at the kitchen table with her tears and her regrets. In a few hours, Sophie will wake up and come down for breakfast, probably expecting another normal day in what she thinks is a normal family. But there are no normal families, and there are no normal days. There are just people making choices and living with the consequences, and some consequences are more devastating than others. I have work to do. The next morning, I drop Sophie off at school and drive to the Portside Community Center, where the town council holds its monthly meetings. Today's agenda includes a discussion about contractor licensing requirements, which makes it the perfect opportunity to share some concerns about public safety. Council meetings in Portside are typically attended by about 12 people, most of them over 60 and all of them eager to discuss local gossip. When I walk in with a folder full of photographs and documentation, I immediately have everyone's attention. Nick Brennan, says Mayor Patricia Walsh, a retired teacher who's been running the town for longer than anyone can remember. We don't usually see you at council meetings. I have some safety concerns I'd like to share with the council. I walk to the front of the room and spread out photos of Jake's electrical work at the Henderson job site. The shoddy wiring, the code violations, the dangerous shortcuts, it's all documented in vivid detail. These photos were taken at a job site where Jake Morrison is serving as the primary contractor. As you can see, the electrical work doesn't meet basic safety standards. Council member Bob Torres, who used to work construction before his retirement, leans forward to examine the photos. Jesus, Nick, this is amateur hour stuff. Someone could get hurt. That's my concern. Jake Morrison has been taking on jobs that require specialized electrical knowledge, but he's been cutting corners to save money. If the town doesn't step in, someone's going to get electrocuted. Mayor Walsh examines the photos with a grim expression. Have you reported this to the building inspector? I wanted to bring it to the council's attention first. Jake Morrison has been marketing himself as a full-service contractor, but he's not qualified to do electrical work. The town might want to review his licensing status. What I don't mention is that I've also sent copies of these photos to the state licensing board, the local newspaper, and Jake's insurance company. By the end of the week, his contractor's license will be suspended and his business insurance will be canceled. The council spends the next hour discussing Jake's work and the need for stricter oversight of local contractors. By the time the meeting ends, word will have spread throughout the community that Jake Morrison is a safety hazard who can't be trusted with basic construction work. From the community center, I drive to Sophie's school for a parent-teacher conference that Melissa was supposed to attend. Mrs. Rodriguez, Sophie's guidance counselor, looks surprised to see me instead of my wife. Mr. Brennan, I was expecting to meet with Sophie's mother. Melissa had a work emergency. I hope that's okay. Of course, please have a seat. Mrs. Rodriguez pulls out Sophie's file and spreads it across her desk. I asked for this meeting because I'm concerned about some changes in Sophie's behavior lately. She's been distracted in class, her grades are slipping, and she seems to be having conflicts with some of her friends. What kind of conflicts? Apparently, there have been some rumors circulating about your family. Sophie's been defensive about it, which has created tension with her peer group. I lean forward in my chair. What kind of rumors? Mrs. Rodriguez looks uncomfortable. Mr. Brennan, I don't want to spread gossip, but there's been talk about your wife and another man. Some of the other parents have been discussing the situation. I see. And how is Sophie handling this? Not well. She's been acting out, challenging her teachers, getting into arguments with classmates. Yesterday, she got into a shouting match with another student who made a comment about her mother. I feel a surge of protective anger toward my daughter. She's defending a mother who's been lying to her, fighting battles she doesn't understand for people who don't deserve her loyalty. What can we do to help Sophie? Family counseling might be beneficial. Sophie needs stability right now, and she needs to know that her parents are going to work together to support her, regardless of what's happening in your marriage. I thank Mrs. Rodriguez and promise to discuss counseling options with Melissa. But as I drive away from the school, I realize that family counseling isn't going to solve our problems. Sophie needs to understand the truth about her mother and Jake Morrison, even if that truth is painful. That afternoon, I pick Sophie up from school as usual. She's quiet during the drive home, staring out the window with the same distant expression I've been seeing from Melissa lately. How was school? Fine. Mrs. Rodriguez says you've been having some problems with other students. Sophie turns to look at me, her green eyes flashing with anger. People need to mind their own business. Sophie, if kids are saying things about our family, they're saying that Mom is cheating on you with Jake Morrison. They're saying that our family is falling apart and that you're too stupid to do anything about it. The bluntness of her words hits me like a physical blow. What did you tell them? I told them they were wrong. I told them that you and Mom love each other and that Jake is just a family friend. I pull over to the side of the road and turn to face my daughter. She's crying now, tears of frustration and confusion streaming down her face. Sophie, I need you to listen to me very carefully. The things those kids are saying, some of them are true. No, they're not. Your mother and Jake Morrison have been having an affair. They've been meeting secretly for months, lying to both of us about where they're going and what they're doing. Sophie stares at me like I've just told her the world is flat. You're lying. I pull out my phone and show her one of the photos from Mrs. Patterson's surveillance. It's Jake and Melissa kissing in the parking lot behind Tony's Pizzeria, their body language making it clear that this isn't a casual goodbye between friends. Sophie looks at the photo for a long moment, then hands my phone back to me. I don't believe you. Sophie, I don't believe you, and I don't want to talk about this anymore. We drive the rest of the way home in silence. When we pull into the driveway, Sophie gets out of the truck and runs into the house without looking back. I sit in the driveway for a few minutes, trying to figure out how to handle this situation. Sophie is protecting herself the only way she knows how, by refusing to accept a reality that's too painful to acknowledge. But eventually, she's going to have to face the truth about her mother and Jake Morrison. The question is whether she'll forgive me for being the one to show it to her. When I walk into the house, I can hear Sophie and Melissa talking in the kitchen. Their voices are low and urgent, and I catch fragments of conversation as I hang up my jacket. Dad says you and Jake are having an affair. Sophie, your father is going through a difficult time right now. He's saying things that aren't true. But he has pictures. Pictures can be misleading. Jake and I work together sometimes, and people see what they want to see. I walk into the kitchen, and both of them stop talking. Sophie looks confused and hurt, while Melissa looks like a cornered animal. Don't lie to her, Melissa. I'm not lying. I'm trying to protect our daughter from your paranoid accusations. Paranoid accusations? Should I call Mrs. Patterson and ask her to share her documentation of your motel visits? Melissa's face goes pale, but she recovers quickly. I don't know what you're talking about. I pull out Mrs. Patterson's notebook and set it on the kitchen table. 2 months of dates, times, and room numbers. Mrs. Patterson is very thorough. Sophie picks up the notebook and flips through it, her expression growing more confused with each page. "Mom, what is this?" Melissa snatches the notebook away from Sophie. "It's nothing. Your father is trying to turn you against me." I'm trying to tell her the truth. The truth? The truth is that you've been sabotaging my business, harassing Jake Morrison, and trying to destroy our family because you're jealous and insecure. Jealous? Melissa, you're having an affair with my former best friend. What exactly am I supposed to be jealous of? Sophie looks back and forth between us like she's watching a tennis match. Stop it! Both of you, just stop! She runs upstairs, leaving Melissa and me alone in the kitchen with our anger and our broken marriage. You had no right to involve Sophie in this. I had every right. She's my daughter, and she deserves to know why her family is falling apart. Melissa sits down at the kitchen table and puts her head in her hands. What do you want from me, Nick? You want me to admit that I've been seeing Jake? Fine. I admit it. You want me to apologize? I'm sorry. You want me to end it with him? I'll end it. Just tell me what you want. I sit across from her and study her face. She looks exhausted, defeated, like someone who's finally run out of lies and excuses. What I want is for you to understand that it's too late for apologies. You made your choice when you decided that Jake Morrison was more important than our marriage. Now you get to live with the consequences of that choice. What consequences? I smile, but there's no warmth in it. You'll find out soon enough. That evening, I sit in my garage workshop, making final preparations for tomorrow's events. Everything is ready. The documentation, the photographs, the witness statements, the financial records that will destroy both Melissa's and Jake's careers. Tomorrow is the day that everyone in Portside learns the truth about my wife and former best friend. Tomorrow is the day that their new life together begins, whether they want it or not. And tomorrow is the day that I finally get my revenge. But as I sit surrounded by the evidence of their betrayal, I can't help wondering if this is really what I want. Destroying Jake Morrison's business and Melissa's reputation won't bring back our marriage or restore Sophie's faith in her family. All it will do is ensure that everyone loses. Maybe that's enough. Maybe sometimes the only justice available is making sure that everyone pays the same price for their choices. I guess I'll find out tomorrow. The morning of reckoning arrives with unseasonably warm weather and clear skies, the kind of day that makes you believe good things are possible. I wake up early before Melissa and Sophie and sit on the front porch with my coffee, watching the neighborhood come to life. Mrs. Henderson is walking her dog past our house, probably wondering why her kitchen renovation has been delayed for weeks. Mr. Torres is loading tools into his pickup truck, getting ready for another day of honest work. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that today their quiet town is about to explode with scandal. My phone buzzes with a text message from Frank Kowalski. You sure about this, Nick? Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. I text back, already past the point of no return. Frank responds immediately, then make it count. At 8 a.m., I drive to the Portside Gazette office and hand over a manila envelope containing everything. The motel documentation, the photographs, the financial records showing how Jake has been undermining local contractors, the evidence of safety violations at his job sites. Editor Sarah Mitchell looks through the materials with the expression of someone who's just been handed a Pulitzer Prize. Nick, this is comprehensive. You've been working on this for a while. I believe in being thorough. Are you sure you want all of this published? Once it's in print, there's no taking it back. I think about Sophie, probably getting ready for school right now, still believing that her family can somehow survive this crisis. I think about Melissa, probably planning another secret meeting with Jake, convinced that she can keep living her double life indefinitely. Publish it. Sarah nods and locks the materials in her desk drawer. It'll be in tomorrow's edition, front page. From the newspaper office, I drive to the high school, where I have a meeting scheduled with Principal Davidson. Sophie doesn't know about this meeting, and neither does Melissa. Principal Davidson is a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who's been dealing with teenage drama longer than anyone should have to. She listens patiently while I explain the situation with Melissa and Jake and how it's been affecting Sophie's behavior and academic performance. Mr. Brennan, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. We'll make sure Sophie has access to counseling resources if she needs them. There's something else. Tomorrow's newspaper is going to contain some very detailed information about my wife's affair. Sophie's going to be dealing with a lot of attention from other students. Principal Davidson's expression grows more serious. What kind of attention? The kind that 16-year-olds aren't equipped to handle. I want to make sure she has support available. Of course, we'll have the guidance counselor check in with Sophie regularly, and we can arrange for her to eat lunch in a private setting if the cafeteria becomes too overwhelming. I thank Principal Davidson and drive to my final stop of the morning, Jake Morrison's house. His borrowed pickup truck is in the driveway, and I can see him through the kitchen window, probably trying to figure out how to salvage his failing business. I walk to the front door and knock. Jake opens the door, looking like he hasn't slept in days. His usually perfect appearance is disheveled, and there's a defeated slump to his shoulders that tells me he knows what's coming. Nick, I was wondering when you'd show up. We need to talk. Jake steps aside and lets me into his house. The living room is a mess. Empty bottles, unpaid bills scattered across the coffee table. The general chaos of a life falling apart. Drink? Jake offers, gesturing toward a bottle of whiskey on the kitchen counter. It's 9 a.m. Yeah, well, it's been that kind of week. Jake pours himself a drink and sits across from me in his living room. So what's the final move, Nick? You've destroyed my business, ruined my reputation, and turned the whole town against me. What's left? I pull out a copy of tomorrow's newspaper article and set it on the coffee table between us. Jake reads the headline and goes pale. Local contractor's affair destroys marriage, endangers public safety. Jesus, Nick, you really went nuclear. You brought this on yourself. Jake finishes his drink and sets the glass down with shaking hands. What about Melissa? What about Sophie? You think destroying me is worth hurting them too? Melissa made her choice. As for Sophie, she'll be better off knowing the truth about the people she trusted. Will she? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're willing to hurt your own daughter just to get revenge on me. The accusation hits closer to home than I want to admit. Sophie will understand eventually. Will she? Or will she spend the rest of her life wondering why her father chose revenge over protecting her from pain? Jake stands up and walks to the window, looking out at his yard like he's seeing it for the last time. I'm leaving town, Nick. Today. I'll pack what I can fit in my truck and drive until I find somewhere that doesn't know my name. Running away? What choice do I have? You've made it impossible for me to stay here. My business is finished, my reputation is destroyed, and after tomorrow's newspaper comes out, I'll probably need police protection just to walk down Main Street. Jake turns back to face me, and I see something in his expression that might be genuine remorse. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I betrayed our friendship, I'm sorry I hurt your marriage, and I'm especially sorry that Sophie got caught in the middle of this. Sorry doesn't fix anything. No, it doesn't. But it's all I have left to offer. Jake walks to his bedroom and comes back with a suitcase. Tell Melissa that I'm gone. Tell her that whatever we had, it's over now. Tell her yourself. I can't. If I see her again, I might change my mind about leaving. And we both know that staying would just make things worse for everyone. Jake heads toward the door, then stops and looks back at me one more time. You won, Nick. I hope it was worth it. After Jake drives away, I sit in his empty house for a few minutes, surrounded by the debris of a life that's been systematically destroyed. In a few hours, Melissa will come looking for him and find nothing but abandoned furniture and unpaid bills. Tomorrow, the whole town will read about their affair in graphic detail. Sophie will have to face her classmates, knowing that her family's private shame has become public entertainment. And I'll have my revenge. But sitting in Jake Morrison's abandoned living room, I can't help wondering if Frank Kowalski was right. Maybe the best revenge really is just living well. Maybe destroying my enemies isn't worth becoming someone my daughter can't respect. Too late to worry about that now. The wheels are already in motion, and by tomorrow evening, everyone in Portside will know exactly what kind of man Nick Brennan really is. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. I lock Jake's house and drive home, where Melissa and Sophie are probably starting their day with no idea that their world is about to change forever. I won an undisputed victory.